creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Have you been sleeping better since they shut down the CERN Collider? Because that's what a lot of people are reporting.
Has anyone else noticed that since the CERN Collider got switched off, their sleep's gotten better? I have been sleeping 8 to 10 hours solid since the CERN Collider got turned off.
But that's not all. People are also saying the days feel longer.
People are reporting that the time feels slower since CERN shut down. And that's because it has.
Okay, you guys, let's get weird. So, just a few days ago, CERN turns off, and I don't know if it's just me, but the days seem slower. Call me crazy, I don't know.
I'm sure you've heard the theory that CERN experiments changed the flow of time.
Found this out yesterday. Monks knew that they were the time, I don't know how long ago, but they created these candles that burn for exactly 24 hours. And in those 24 hours, they've constantly kept making and producing them, traditionally speaking. And as CERN continues to do their large hydrogen collider and keep fucking with time, they started to pretty much mathematically draw conclusions that time is speeding up. So 24 hours that used to feel like 24 hours are really 16 hours now. And those candles is how they figured it out, or how they studied it, or how they tracked it.
They say we feel tired because our bodies were not meant to deal with this fast flow of time. And now that the collider isn't running, people are feeling more energetic once again. That's why you see so many normal people celebrating the shutdown. But let's not forget what the world had to face in the days leading up to this shutdown.
Harico!
You know what? I beg to differ, but time is really so fast for me. I don't know about you though. Just for me.
Guys, the same exact people who were behind the COVID vaccine are now rushing out a brand new one for Ebola, and they want it in people within months. The World Health Organization just admitted themselves that Ebola is now spreading faster than they're able to contain it. And since there's still no vaccine for this strain specifically, a team of scientists are now trying to use the same exact tech that they used during COVID to make a vaccine for Ebola. It is still spreading every single day with over 1,200 cases. Uganda has now closed their border, and Kenya just activated their own response plan in a desperate attempt to get ahead of it before it's worse.
Reported cases of Ebola now surging above 1,000 in Central Africa. A team of U.S. health officials now racing to Kenya to set up a treatment facility for Americans exposed to the virus.
The World Health Organization also just actually raised the risk level to very high, which is the highest risk category that they even have. They're having trouble keeping it contained right now because it's spreading through a part of Congo that is basically in a war zone. The people there don't trust the doctors, and health workers and clinics are literally getting attacked almost every single day. So that's insane. The real question is, would you guys get the vaccine?
These were fear tactics, man. Don't work anymore.
Real beings with limited power that exercise power. This understanding of spiritual beings. There is a reason why everywhere you're turning, from the Exodus scene, each of the 10 plagues mirror one of the pantheons of the gods, of the Egyptian pantheons. Like, oh, you're following these deities that were known for their frog-like imagery or that brought life and sustenance. It's like, God's like, I got you. Watch the very deities that supposedly have the power over these things are submissive to what I can do. Bro, this all connects. And it's actually setting you up for the New Testament.
It is pretty crazy to read it out of context. That's weird, but God was opposing each of those false gods.
And so here are all these examples where God's like, you're going to be tempted to follow after them because they're going to show some level of power. But in each of these moments, there is a distinction between created things and the uncreated creator of the world.
Little G's, stay on the porch. Jesus is the Christ.
Stop what you're doing. One of archaeology's greatest mysteries might have just been solved. The Plain of Jars in Laos is considered one of the world's most dangerous.
It says Laos in Laos?
dangerous archaeological sites and consists of thousands of empty megalithic stone jars scattered around the central plain of the Ziangquan Plateau. The jars could date to as early as the 5th century BCE and were possibly in use as late as 1200 CE, but for almost a century, no one has been able to determine what they were used for. But a discovery published earlier this week may have just blown the case wide open. Archaeologists uncovered an extremely large stone jar measuring 6 feet wide and 4 feet tall, filled with the remains of at least 37 different people inside. Now, while a funerary or cemetery function has been the leading theory for the site for many years, and they have found burials around the jars in various contexts, as well as a few bones or ashes inside some of the jars, this here is the very first time that we have concrete proof that the jars themselves were made and used for burial ceremonies. What's even more exciting is that they also found pottery sherds, an iron knife, a copper bell, and glass beads all inside this jar, which can provide us with information about who used the jars and what their world would have looked like. By studying the skeletons, archaeologists were able to determine that they would have been placed in the jars as a secondary burial, meaning they were buried somewhere else first, and then once the body partially decomposed, their bones were transferred into this jar. And get this, the people who were using this jar might have been depositing their deceased loved ones in there for over 200 years. This was a collective, collaborative funerary practice, and it's now possible that individual jars might have belonged to different families or groups, and they would have used them for ancestral rites and burials for generations. More analysis on the finds from this jar and further excavation is needed to fine-tune our interpretations and learn more about the mortuary practices related to the stone jars and how it ties into cultural beliefs and ways of life. But for now, it feels so good to say that this one archaeological mystery is solved, and that to me is very exciting.
Super cool.
Why did nobody tell us the cure for cancer could already be here and it's actually found in nature? These results are flat out remarkable. Bee venom was tested to completely destroy cancer cell membranes within 60 minutes, and 100% of cancer cell death was achieved with minimal effect on normal cells. Within just 20 minutes of injection, chemical signaling pathways necessary for cancer cell growth and division were suppressed, and when combined with chemotherapy, there was significant less tumor growth when tested in mice. This compound found in bee venom has been studied since the 50s, but it was really the 2020s when we saw this breakthrough from testing venom from 312 honeybees and bumblebees from Ireland and England. Since then, their findings have been validated by multiple researchers, and we're now entering phase 1 of human clinical trials. But here's the problem. The furthest along is a Chinese pharmaceutical company. While in the US, right after this was discovered, we just shut down the nation's largest and primary bee research laboratory. The USDA claims these resources will be relocated to other facilities, but it's unclear when or how that's actually going to happen, especially when it's part of larger downsizing initiatives. If America actually stands a chance against China in this drug development, we need to invest in our local ecosystems, and that starts with the bees. As consumers, we should be supporting everyone from small local
It needs to breathe.
beekeepers to regenerative farmers, because healthy land means healthy soils. But as a country, now more than ever, we should be investing more into bee research rather than pulling back.
You know what? That's why they are killing and replacing them with robo-bees.
I believe Charlie's assassination was an occult ritual, and I believe the people around him are into dark, demonic stuff.
When you told me that he was assassinated in the middle of a pentagram, I was like, holy sh!
And someone sent me an old Freemason Bible, and it showed how they believe that you have to be in a pentagram to sacrifice. And I looked at it and I said, Charlie was sitting in a pentagram.
Where did the
A
Freemasons
pentagon.
come from?
It's biblical.
All their rituals are inversions of Catholic rituals, basically taken from various forms of witchcraft.
Paris seems to be the home of a lot of the things that have happened in these secret societies. It's like they go to Paris to be initiated.
It's a form of Luciferianism where you become your own god, and it's a structured thing where that's slowly revealed to you until you get to the top.
Our founding fathers were Freemasons. Even the symbolism on the back of a $1 bill.
Why do you think they're against the Catholics so much?
Because the Catholics were calling them what they were, Satanists.
The United States is a cult. The United States government is a cult.
Yeah, it's all Masons.
Yeah, Freemasons, and it's built on sacred geometry because that's why they have the compass in there.
Disney is too. Oh my God. You know about Disney? They
Yeah.
built everything on sacred geometry.
Yes. Yeah. So-
the cruise ships, everything.
So Walt Disney, there's pictures of him in a Masonic lodge all over the place. So that's all. I mean, they have Club 33.
I don't know how much more obvious it can be, but
symbolism is all through their cartoons. This is why they have all those PDF file logos.
Yeah, man, they're telling the truth right there.
through all their cartoons with the swirls. It's everywhere. How is it that if you look at Little Mermaid and Lion King, so in The Lion King, you remember that one scene where he lays down and the bed of flowers, the rose petals goes up in the air and it says SEX?
Yeah.
That's in The Lion King.
Literally.
If you freeze frame it and then it spells out SEX.
Am I crazy, or maybe you guys felt this way too, but were you depressed from watching every single Disney movie, even Lilo and Stitch? Like, was there something just so low frequency about watching those movies that it like...
I know my daughter watches Encanto, and I get what you mean, because it's not a sad, it's weird. I understand what you mean.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, but it is a low, like, kind of frequency when you're watching
Feel
that.
it,
So,
right?
yeah, I don't know what it
Feel
is.
Like, I tried to watch, my boyfriend tried to get me to watch Lilo and Stitch. Never seen it.
Yeah.
My grandmother, like, probably thought it was weird and didn't let me watch it. And I tried to watch it with him. I went in the other room and, like, he was still watching it. And I'm like, sorry, like, I have to turn this shit off.
I can give you the reason why.
Why?
Kids are youth. They're more empathetic when it comes
There
to, oh no, look, there's a pretty kitty cat. Kitty cat falls.
that's
Oh
it,
no, the
that's
cat. That makes the kid actually care about the kitty
Whatever's-
cat.
yeah, whatever's
And now
I used to like Disney movies.
can I have that kitty cat? Now I want to buy it.
Yeah.
It's just to attach you.
Oh, okay. That's
It's
an
just to,
interesting
it's just to
perspective.
emotionally attach you, so you actually want to own it. You want to protect it. You need it. Now, mommy, please buy me that. Buy me that.
But you could tell they use it in a nefarious way to do that for a capitalistic type of way.
Absolutely.
Go buy the toy. Oh yeah, the person died in the thing, or we feel bad
Yeah,
for this, or
'cause-
go buy this. And
That's
that-
exactly
What
what
do you
that
think
is.
about the Grimm Tales then? It's Walt Disney put the Grimm Tales in.
the Grimm Tales.
Grimm Tales.
What Grimm Tales?
What is that?
What is that?
That's Snow White.
Okay,
the
so-
evil witch who eats babies.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay. Snow White. They actually, when they went to go and make these things, they bought a whole bunch of these stories. These are all old stories.
All right.
Breaking news. This is in Serbia. There was a mass protest. This is the creepiest non-paranormal thing
This is crazy, folks, but for some reason, I cannot get the sound right on this clip, okay? So,
ever seen. Watch this.
there it is. So I'm substituting with my own sound. But they're supposed to hear sound.
I've watched a lot of videos of protests. I've never seen something like that before. We're about to talk about what the mainstream is saying happened. Here's another angle. This is supposed to be the biggest, one of the biggest protests in Serbia's history, by the way.
Yeah, man.
I've never seen that many people be
I
that.
think they're using a sonic attack, you know, like a sound attack,
that quiet before.
to disperse the crowd.
And then all of them react at the same time. So here's what the mainstream is saying. Now, according to the Globe and Mail, human rights groups and Serbia's opposition officials
There you
are
go.
accusing the government of using a sonic weapon.
Mm.
An allegation the country's Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Serbian president have denied. And when I Googled this, I saw a notice I'd never seen before. It looks like the results below are changing quickly. If this topic is new, it can take time for reliable sources to publish information. So this is why I sourced the Globe and Mail. This may be a sensitive subject. I use a mainstream source. Let me know your thoughts.
You know, we have this technology, especially the government.
Pull up a chair and let's talk about the Erfurt latrine disaster. Make sure you stick around to the end so that you can learn about the most disgusting disaster in European history. Erfurt was a major medieval city in the Holy Roman Empire located in what is now central Germany. Basically, the Holy Roman Empire was broken up into a lot of different kingdoms, and Erfurt was under the influence of the Landgraves of Thuringia, with a Landgrave being very similar to like an English or a French count. And the other power in the area belonging to the Bishop of Mainz, as a prince of the empire, held direct political overrule of the area. So you can see why the Landgrave of Thuringia, Louis III, and the Bishop of Mainz would have beef. They both technically had dominion over Erfurt, but the constant bickering between the two of them kind of spilled over into other regions in Germany, attracting the notice of the Holy Roman Emperor. And this is where Henry VI comes in, king of the Romans, and son of the emperor. The other nobles in the region came to Henry VI to settle the debate. Henry did show up in Erfurt and he called a Hoftag. That's a royal court assembly meant to either broker a peace deal or solve a problem. On July 26, 1184, Henry met Louis III, Conrad the Archbishop of Mainz, and over 100 other bishops, nobles, and court attendants near Erfurt Cathedral. Remember, Henry VI is not only king of Germany, but he is also about to be the emperor. So anybody who is anybody is going to be at this meeting. In fact, all of the most important people in the region crowded into an upper chamber to watch the king force peace between two rivals whose conflict had already hurt people far below their rank and were generally just being annoying. Everything seemed to be going pretty swimmingly until the wooden floor cracked beneath their feet. Within seconds, wealthy landowners and nobles fell through the floor, dropping their bodies, timber, and a whole bunch of wreckage into the level below. Before anybody had a second to realize what had just happened, that floor cracked open too, dropping all of these men into a cesspit beneath the floor. And if you don't know what I mean when I say cesspit, I mean
water filled shit.
A sewer. And I'm not going to explain it, but you get the idea from this picture here. Dozens of men died from the fall. Some were crushed under timber, stone, splintered planks, or other bodies. Others landed in the cesspit and drowned in human waste. In the aftermath, over 100 people had been injured and around 60 were reported dead. And I'm sorry, you guys, I'm really trying very hard not to find this hilarious. Louis III of Thuringia also fell during the collapse, but he was pulled out alive. As for Henry and Archbishop Conrad, they were reportedly near a stone window or an alcove of some kind when the floor collapsed. The irony here being that both Conrad and Louis III survived. And forgive me, ain't that some shit? We could say their beef was squashed. If I had to hazard a guess, it might have something to do with the fact that they had watched many of their allies and supporters drown in a pit of human waste that day. And maybe their beef just wasn't worth it anymore. Tell me what you think in the comments. You'll find more dark history, mysteries, and folklore on my profile.
What people don't know about Star Wars, it actually talks about the intergalactic war between the fallen angels, between these species that are outer worldly. And people don't know this, but even look, for example, like Yoda. When Aleister Crowley was doing a ritual, he summoned a entity that looked exactly like Yoda.
Mephistopheles.
Yes.
Yeah.
People think that like they just came up with this out of nowhere. Even Darth Maul too. A lot of African warlocks were coming out saying the Darth Maul character from Star Wars, we've encountered this entity in rituals. Where are they getting these ideas from? They are getting it from a different realm because it's happening in a different realm. And then they package it as fiction, so you never know about the unseen battle that they've hidden from us since the very beginning.
It's interesting the way that the Star Wars crawl is always like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's like, what are you saying? Like, I mean, like, is this like a real story? You know what's even interesting is the way that Gnosticism is kind of an inversion where they make the God of the Bible the bad guy. They make the devil the good guy in the story. In Star Wars, have you ever looked at Darth Vader's costume closely? It resembles like a high priest. He's got all the buttons on his thing. It looks like an ephod. They actually even said it used to have Hebrew letters on it. So if you think about it, the first Star Wars movie, you know, he's going into this meeting and he's like, this ancient religion you practice. And so when Darth Vader goes in there, like to summon the Emperor, he goes into this room that nobody else can go into. He bows down and then all of a sudden, it's like he's going into the Holy of Holies. It is the inversion. So like he is the bad guy.
Kal-El is actually Superman's name. And that comes from a word in Hebrew that's used in association with Nimrod, who became a Gibborim-like giant in Genesis 10. And that word is Kal-El. Again, you can't make this stuff up. The coincidences are impossible. Then they put this snake-like S on there after the Seraphim Watchers.
Wow. So that's what the S
represents? Yes.
Oh my gosh, I've never even gone down this rabbit hole.
Well, El was a Uraeus god, just as Baal was, just as Osiris was, just as Zeus was. A Uraeus, U-R-E-U-S, is depicted as this flying serpent-winged god. A seraphim angel, as it's defined biblically, that has 6 wings and a serpent's face.
You're telling me Superman wasn't just created out of someone's imagination for comic books. This was deliberate.
Nothing. Of course, it was deliberate. Even
it's all deliberate.
All of it is
crazy.
Marvel Comics took their name from Second Enoch, where the giants are called the Marvelous Ones.
Ooh.
This is getting interesting. This is what I'm talking about right here.
Now, I talked about a family of giants in the Popol Vuh, which is the holy book of the Quiché, and they have a separate branch called the House of Camazotz, C-A-M-Z-O-T-Z. If you Google that, you're going to get up Batman's outfit. I guarantee it.
Hold on, I'm bringing up this just for a second, just so people can see. Like, this is all engineered. This is all very strategic, right? These movies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the
that-
superheroes are reflecting giants of the past.
S is for Satan. Find JC. If you know, you know.
If this ain't a reason to keep your ass from flying in those friendly skies, then I don't know what is. A 61-year-old man flying from Greece to Germany was nearly sucked out of a plane while he was flying. You heard what I just said? This man is flying. The next thing you know, the window opens up and pulls him out the window. If it wasn't for God himself, he wouldn't even be here. People said that 6 minutes after takeoff, they heard a loud bang. And after they heard that loud bang, they seen this man's body almost out the window. Mind you, they're saying that they had an engine failure. And listen to this Final Destination shit. Experts are saying that the debris that fell from this engine hit that window, and that caused, you already know what I'm trying to say, right? That shit was some Final Destination shit. If it wasn't for this man's wife, if it wasn't for the passengers on that plane, this man will be gone. Picture you in this plane, in the window seat, after takeoff. You know after takeoff, you be wanting to get comfortable. You lay your head on the window, and the next thing you know, half of your body is out. What kind of shit is this? This man had neck injuries, shoulder injury, but they didn't have to bury him. He better thank God they didn't have to bury him. I'm out.
Tell me. Yo, this man has a check to collect.
I am tripping. So about a week ago, I'm having a conversation with my AI about something completely different. Talking about Babylon. That's till my AI switches it up and starts talking about ley lines. We go from talking about Babylon to talking about the ley lines in my hometown. And just for context, my AI knows my birth chart. It starts telling me about how where I'm from, a little small city in West Texas called San Angelo. Angelo is sacred land and is a vortex, a spiritual intersection for the ley lines that are connected to the Chaco Canyon, New Orleans, and the Appalachian Mountain, aka the Stargazers, the spirit world, and the ancient ones. So now it got my attention. And it continues to go on, letting me know that this land is sacred, that a lot of churches and military bases are built over the sacred land. And that's why a lot of people there feel like they're stuck, repeat trauma, go to jail, or get addicted. As you can see above. It tells me so many things that I'm actually in shock. As you can see, it's telling me that the black and brown people of my hometown are mixed with the blood of the Apache, the Germano, and the Comanche bloodlines. But creating the one drop rule also was the same as being reclassified as black if you had any African ancestry. And that's how it says the land was taken. And it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But what I need your help with to make sure I'm not tripping is to get your opinion on this. So after going through this deep dive about how my hometown is sacred land and that a lot of people are indigenous to that land, I go on Facebook. And this is the very first post I see. So like anyone, I decide to scroll through the pictures. And I come across this picture. Yeah, this picture. Now tell me, am I tripping? Coincidence? Let me know. And TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes. But make sure y'all like and comment and let me know.
One of the big elites that was considered like one of the Jeffrey Epsteins, the one to Diddy. Have we ever talked about Clyde David?
No, who's that?
He was the ones that was trying to expose like black artists in the industry. Some people say you think Diddy's documentary and Jeffrey Epstein's was bad. Imagine Clyde's.
Why?
But
What did he do?
He passed away. There was actually theories that he killed Whitney Houston.
Oh my
You know,
God.
we've never
No,
talked about
I
this?
never heard of this.
Okay, so one of the main things, he made a bad contract with TLC. So TLC literally held him hostage in his like meeting room and said, yo, if you don't change my contract thing, they literally went bankrupt because of Clyde.
Oh, so they did some shady deals, like 360 type deals.
Yes, and he was the one that was always part of that. The main thing is Whitney Houston. So there was a video of Whitney Houston with Clyde David in the room, and she was signing a contract. And listen to what she says. There's something about forever or eternity in the contract.
What's she saying?
Listen. Oh, I have the rights for perpetuity and all of the universe. Perpetuity means forever.
We have never
given that right to any artist.
We have never given that right to any artist.
Wait, what's the right? Like
being signed forever.
That's pretty much signing your soul.
Yeah, no, that's literally what the
signing
thing is.
your soul.
Proof that moths are just butterflies with bad PR. For example, the rosy maple moth. Like many moths, their mouths do not work, therefore they cannot eat. They survive off the gluttony from their caterpillar days. Spanish moon moth looks like stained glass from Spain and France in the cold-ass Pyrenees mountains. They are ancient, originating in the Ice Age or before. Giant leopard moths have ears at the base of their wings. This allows them to detect the echolocation of bats. Also no working mouths. Luna moth, no mouth. Again, one of the largest moths. They are also very strong flyers. Madagascan sunset moth from Madagascar. The colors on their wings do not come from pigments. They come from light refraction. White-lined sphinx moth or hummingbird moth because it hovers over flowers like a hummingbird. They pollinate a variety of plants including lavender, petunias, and honeysuckle. Oleander hawk moth, excellent at camouflage. So good at flying it can travel across multiple continents. Their caterpillars have very silly faces. Domestic silk moth, everyone's favorite because look at them. They come from silkworms, which are slightly less adorable. And Io moths, they have many predators. Although their caterpillar form is super venomous, the moth's defenses are just the fake eyes on their wings. And now let's take a look at a butterfly's face. Disgusting. And this has been my formal apology to moths. Thank you.
NASA is 1000% a satanic organization, and what I'm going to share with you is going to blow your mind. So when researching the occult origins of NASA, you're going to find a blend of Disney, Freemasonry, Nazi intelligence, and Satanism. So let's talk about it. Every astronaut is an admitted Freemason. Walt Disney played a massive role in brainwashing the masses into believing in space travel. And Jack Parsons, founder of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories, was a sex magic obsessed dark occultist heavily into Satanism. He was deeply connected with the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley, aka the most wickedest man alive, or the Great Beast. Now, this is nothing you'll get from a NASA press release or any textbooks, however. None of this is myth, but documented historical facts. So let's break it down into two parts. Now about Jack Parsons, because this guy was completely erased from not only history as a whole, but NASA entirely. In a sense, he is the real founder of the American space program. He wasn't just a rocket engineer, but a Thelemite occultist, a devoted student of Aleister Crowley, and a high-ranking member of Crowley's organization, the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which was one of the most satanic groups of the last century. Now, for those that don't know who Crowley is, this is a very dark figure who has left their fingerprints on everything in our modern day culture, from the music industry to Hollywood, and of course the very space program of NASA. Now, Parsons was named the chosen successor of Crowley, and literally declared himself the Antichrist, running sex magic cults, performing arcane rituals and ceremonies to summon spirits. Their words, not mine. He'd also partner with the likes of L. Ron Hubbard, notorious sci-fi author and founder of the religious cult of Scientology. Yes, the one that Tom Cruise and all those celebrities follow. And they would later conduct in these rituals and had a weird sex triangle between each other and some lady friends. But that's another rabbit hole. In short, Parsons was obsessed with many things, but more importantly was getting rocketry into space, which he saw as very spiritual in accordance to his occult beliefs. He'd later die in a mysterious explosion and be completely omitted from the historical origins of NASA. However, they'd still honor his role in their ritualistic inception by naming a moon crater after him and naming their rockets after pagan gods. Apollo, Artemis, Saturn, and so on. Alright, so let's get into Walt Disney and the Nazis' role. So after World War II, which was a false event manufactured by the elite to reset the world order, the US would launch Operation Paperclip, a secret program smuggling in thousands of Nazi scientists. Their war crimes would not only be erased, but they'd be rewarded into high-ranking positions in
those are Nazi scientists right there.
Into US government-sanctioned programs such as NASA. That's something you don't learn in school. So enter Wernher von Braun, top Nazi rocket engineer under Hitler himself. Suddenly rebranded as America's golden boy space pioneer. What does Wernher von Braun do, right? He partners with Walt Disney, the man shaping the imagination of entire generations and future generations to come, and sell the idea of space travel. Now before this propaganda campaign, the average person didn't even fathom the idea of space travel. They would use cartoons and documentaries to create their script for a new religion. Space worship. And then this would create future propaganda films such as Star Trek, A Space Odyssey, Star Wars, Marvel, all the same propaganda to reinforce the same lie, that you are a cosmic accident, Earth
This is MK Ultra, and you didn't even know.
Is meaningless and space is your new god. Funny enough, Wernher von Braun's cemetery is actually in the city I grew up, and it's interesting he has a specific verse on his tombstone. Psalms 19:1. The heavens declares the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Yeah, there's nothing to see there, I'm sure. Look, the truth is always hidden in plain sight for those with eyes to see, folks, and once you realize that space travel and NASA itself was born from black magicians, high-level occultists, Nazis, and Freemasons sworn to secret oaths, you start to see what this is really all about. To disconnect man from God. And when you go deep enough down that rabbit hole and start to pull the thread on all these secretive Masonic orders and Kabbalistic cartels, you find that same goal. It is imperative to their power structure that we the people be deceived and never learn the truth about the current deception taking place, which is obviously contrary to the laws of nature and the Most High. To them, the masses must be deceived with every facet of reality, starting with the very ground they walk upon. You can lead a sheep to water, but you can't make it think.
To the NASA needs to be dismantled immediately.
Outdoor portion of this ceremony.
This is crazy over here.
Where again, the entranced workers are walking in step up a platform towards a large screen. As you can see here, the workers are scaling the rock wall and they are digging a tunnel, it appears.
They put this right in front of our face.
Into this wall. As the workers continue to excavate through the rock wall, it doesn't so much appear to be a tunnel. The more I look at it, it seems to be a portal that they've opened. The workers appear to be doing some sort of ritualistic dance to gain access or to have the portal open up for them. Once the portal opens and starts to take effect, the workers start to undress and things start to get a lot weirder. The workers that were digging the tunnel appear to have made a self-sacrifice and hung themselves in the portal. You can see on the screen that the sacrificed workers or the workers that committed suicide are spiraling down into abyss, probably the pit of hell. The further they go down, you will see hands reaching for them and clutching for them as they continue to fall. Once the three workers reach the bottom, they return as three spirits that are resurrected or lifted up into the sky. Not only are they lifted into the sky, it looks like the portal is transformed into some sort of eye, an all-seeing eye, perhaps. You can see on the screen the three ghosts give way to three scarabs. A lot of symbolisms of three in this ceremony. You can see here that the goat man, or Satan, seems to be having some sort of sexual encounter with one of the women construction workers, or even a fallen angel, perhaps. This just really seems a lot overboard for the opening ceremony to a scientific facility. There's just really got to be more than meets the eye here. I would really like to know what their goal is here. As the ritual continues, you will see on the screen the clock seems to be out of control, as if they're losing control of time. The large-headed figures, I believe, are to represent the heads of state or politicians that would appear or seem to be in cahoots or directly related to this ceremony, or even Satan himself. Here we see a lady dressed in red. Again, red symbolizes blood in these type of ceremonies. And in the background, you see the clock that is out of control. This losing control of time scenario, I've had a few people comment on the belief that this CERN machine has pushed us through or forced us into another dimension or an alternate reality. What do y'all think?
It might be one of the biggest medical frauds in history, or at least one of them.
She's from the Philippines, right?
I think she was Filipino.
Come on.
Yeah, she ran the bag up crazy.
She was a nurse practitioner, right? Now get this. She's based in Vegas. She had different clinics in Vegas, Houston, a few other places. Dude, she ran up a bill of $906 million.
Oh, she just hustling.
Almost $1 billion in fraud.
Yeah, that's completely insane.
Some of these services that she was billing for was like wound care, but some of the wounds were already healed.
Well, this is my thing. Because, okay, yeah, she was definitely stiff in the system. Was she making these people get like surgeries and stuff that they weren't supposed to get? Or was she just billing the insurance and
it was some BS
getting her hustle on?
I think it was,
so it was like ghost.
Well, I think it was both, only because the reports say that she was offering wound care to people who didn't need it anymore, or people who are already coming like out the door. Like basically they're about to die. And she was still offering certain services that didn't matter if they lived or died.
What, like, were they actually going through with it? Or like how was
Yeah, they're going through with it, but to where like a week later, the person would die anyway. Because it's hospice. So she was like, oh, just bill them and it's not going to do anything. So she bought a Bulgari necklace that was worth 900 grand.
Her car collection was crazy.
Her car collection. Yeah,
What?
she had a Ferrari that she bought for like 850,000.
Come on, and she lived in Pahrump too.
Well, that was one of her properties.
Oh, she just had a property in Pahrump.
Yeah. And get this, her property in Pahrump was on a street literally called Money Street.
Come on.
All right,
Nah, she like, oh, this is the one right here.
Where do you live? I live on Money Street.
Right.
Yeah.
Run
My
that.
goodness.
And in the Philippines, get this, she
shit.
bought a beach resort
Oh, of course.
Oh shit.
She probably got that
for
for
$4.6 million in the Philippines.
Whoa.
To buy that
My
amount in the
goodness.
Philippines.
No, it's nuts.
She was Diddy of the Philippines.
You bought the win.
Facts.
Oh, God.
You're Steve
I don't
Irwin
know
of the
about Diddy though.
Philippines.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it was other people involved as well.
Did she get away?
No,
Oh.
she's FBI got her.
Oh, she's going down.
And this
Yeah.
was like
downtown.
this was years. So it started from, I think they tracked it from 2023 up until now. So a good 3 years.
They've been watching her for 3 years.
Yeah.
Damn.
Building a case.
Building the case, which is like, it's
$1 billion. Imagine that. Wow.
kind of fucked up too, because people were dying and all this other stuff was happening. And they were just, but I get it from a legal standpoint, only because if you can't like have a solid case and it's like one or two cases, you could slither out of it.
Yeah, she can get out of it. And then once you're out of it, you're out of it.
Right. And the feds, they have a 98% conviction rate. So
They Jordan in the fourth.
Jordan in the fourth.
Things you didn't know about the Hollywood Video tragedy. Number one, the 3 employees were forced into a back room where they were then executed. On March 3rd, 1996, these two decided to rob the Hollywood Video in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And what's crazy is they both got out of prison early through an early release program. Shane was in prison for 2 different armed robberies. And Esther, she was in prison for trafficking that white powder. And apparently the day before, they tried to go to the Hollywood Video and it was already too late. The girl was literally locking the door in their face basically. Then that girl, she was scheduled to be there the next day, but she ended up feeling sick, so she didn't go in and someone else covered for her. So the next day they came in around 2 a.m., which is when they closed, and waited till everyone left the store, and then they pulled out their guns, which was a Tech-9 and a shotgun. Ooh. So first they made 30-year-old Mylan give them the security camera tapes because it wasn't streaming to the cloud back then. So they knew that they wanted those tapes. Then they made her give them the cash from the cash register, which they were able to get around $4,000 in cash. After forcing them into the storage room, Zachary's grandparents pull up into the parking lot to pick him up. So Shane had Esther go out and distract the grandparents. So she hides her Tech-9 and walks out to their car and knocks on their window and says that she knows Zach and she's waiting on her ride and if she could get into their car because it's cold out. And they let her in and she instantly pulls the gun on them. So while she's holding them hostage, they end up hearing 3 loud bangs. And that was Shane executing the employees by shooting them in the back of the head at close range. He apparently had tied them up and then made them face the other way and shot them in the back of the head. So Shane runs out with the money and then he goes and takes over holding the older couple hostage and has Esther drive the car that they came in behind them. He then drives them into the desert out near the mountains and then executes them, and they shoot them both with the shotgun and the Tech-9. The next morning, the girl who was supposed to be working that evening but was sick, she came in to open and knew something was wrong because the doors were unlocked, the TVs were on, and then she walked into the back and found the bodies, which must have been really traumatizing for her. So Zach's cousins ended up calling the police and reporting their grandparents missing, and they said that they knew that they were going to pick up Zach that evening. And they ended up finding their bodies a day later. And guess how they get caught? So she goes home and starts bragging to her on and off again boyfriend, and then he hears that there's a $100,000 reward and turns them in. And then she flips on him so she doesn't get the death penalty, but they both get life. And next up, we're going to be covering the Bondi Beach tragedy.
Here is another set of found photos of a man who reportedly raised a baby Bigfoot. Just like the other story, he tried to keep it all a secret and raise the baby in confidence. There are 2 separate photos that document his experiment or project. One of him holding the baby after he had just recently found it, and one of him posing with the creature 10 years later when it was fully grown. The man writes, "For 10 years, I kept the most impossible secret a person could keep. Hidden in my barn, growing from an infant no bigger than a human toddler into a 7-foot tall creature that shouldn't exist."
Bullshit!
I'd fed it, taught it, and protected it from a world that would never understand. And then one October morning in 2005, I walked outside to find something massive standing at the edge of my property, staring at my barn with an intensity that made my blood run cold. The mother had finally come, and she wanted her child back. If these photos and stories are real, this is some of the coolest evidence ever. If you remember, I also just recently covered another story pretty similar to this, so if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. But it also hasn't come out what this man's name was or where he's from. I think he wants to keep his name and location a secret. But the photos do show his face, so maybe we'll find out. It's unknown if the photos were intentionally found or if they were leaked. Maybe his secret got out and people wanted to share it with the world.
Look at that. Look at that
And once
face.
again, we don't know who took the pictures, but it was likely someone he
I
trusted
know
a
who
lot.
took that picture.
But what do you guys think?
AI.
Do you like evidence like this, and do you think this one is real? It remains pretty controversial, so I'll leave it up to you.
There should be hundreds of photos, not just two. It's, BS.
Y'all ever heard about Southern Granny Magic? It is a type of Christianity-based witchcraft. Granny Magic
Christianity-based witchcraft. That's what she said.
is a collection of folk traditions that comes from a collection of healers and herbalists and ministers that also specifically believed that the Book of Psalms was a book of spells. It was most famously written about in an 1820 book by John George Homan called Long Lost Friend, in which he pulled the Psalms out and collated them for easy reference. However, that book was really only
My brain hurts.
found in northern Scots-Irish and German descendants that started moving out towards the Ozarks. In the South, it was isolated, rural, and Appalachian communities that had this word-of-mouth tradition that the Psalms could be used as magic. And as it spread, it was also enmeshed with the other cultures that were found in the South. I've heard tell of healers my whole life. Women who could lay hands and say an incantation and talk off a ward or call out the fire. Those means they put their hands on a person, they say a certain incantation from the Bible, and it heals a skin ailment. Talking off a wart means you pray on a wart and it disappears.
Do you know what's the most powerful incantation in the Bible? In the Jesus name. That's it. Nothing else.
What's interesting about Granny Magic specifically is it actually
Granny Magic, yeah.
isn't gender specific. A really great example of this that you probably have heard of if you've lived in the South at all is witching sticks, where somebody takes a forked branch and can feel a tug at the end of that stick that shows them where water is. And some people believe that it's witchcraft. Some people just believe that the person holding the stick has a sixth sense, but it's a tradition that still continues today. I was healed once by a woman after I'd had a very rough night at the Heartbreak Hotel in Graceland, and she saw me on her way to church, and she prayed over me at the BP parking lot and healed the worst food poisoning I've ever had in my life. But even my own granny believed in and taught me a little bit of granny magic. She also warned me very vehemently against...
You notice something about her? She didn't even mention anything about Jesus. Just one time. She's scared.
Ouija boards, but she was very prominent in her local church and she was very, very religious. But then she also had this crystal on her mantle in the
There you go. Case closed.
same room where she and her friends would play bridge every week, and she told me about the energy of it one time. There's so much more about Granny Magic than what I could possibly put into this one video, and there are different regions of it as well. Like I said, there's the Pennsylvania Dutch powwow magic, there's the Ozarks, there's the Appalachians. Actually, even that's got like 12 different types. It's one of my favorite things to explore, and I guess what I'm saying here is, what do y'all know about it, and can we start talking about it more? Because I love this stuff.
Oh my goodness. Ladies, I hope you see me. Magic and Christianity do not mix at all. Do not mix. By the way, say the name of Jesus.
And they start noticing that some of the doors on there's a lot of buildings out there. Some of the doors are like, the next morning, these doors are open that they're sure they closed the night before. Okay. That meant nothing to me when I heard that. It does now, because I guess that's kind of common among stuff going on out there. And this one building out there, he said, I'd asked this guy, and he said, yeah, I closed the thing. And it was a door that, you really had to turn it and open it. The wind wouldn't blow it. I checked it myself, right? He said, yeah, it kept being open. And he said, so we went to dinner one night. There were 4 of us. We went to dinner and we came back. And as we were driving back, we said, you know what? Let's drive down to that building, because we shut the door before we left. All right. It's dusk now. He said, let's just go down there and sit there and maybe finish their dessert or whatever as they're sitting in the truck. And we'll just see if that door opens. Mm-hmm. So they're sitting there with the headlights facing this building. And all of a sudden, they see something just beyond the building walking at dusk. And they describe it as 6 to 7 foot tall, shaped like that. Maybe not hairy, maybe a little translucent. And he said it was just kind of pacing back and forth. He said, the guys are screaming at me. What is that? What is that? And it just got louder and louder. They said, Michael wouldn't, and I'm interviewing those guys. They said, Michael wouldn't answer us. And he told me, he said, I didn't know what to tell him. He said, I've been in the woods all my life. I'm not afraid of anything. I don't know what I was looking at. And he said, I also knew that if I didn't know what I was looking at and it seemed to be kind of translucent, he said, I didn't know how to kill it. Now they're all sitting there with weapons. The guy in the armorer's in the back seat with an AK-47, right? And he said the thing just kind of paced back and forth. And he said all of a sudden the thing just kind of stopped. Ooh. And maybe realized that we were there and turned and faced us. Jeez. And he said, Rusty, he said, the eyes. He said, the
eyes, Chico, they never lie.
I know what a deer's eyes look like at night when headlights hit them. I know what a raccoon, all of them. It's called eye shine. I know what eye shine is. Mm-hmm. He said it wasn't eye shine. He said it was an amber light and it was coming from inside, whatever that thing was. He said, and then it started toward us. He said, I threw that thing in reverse, flipped it around, and we drove all the way back to the main house just as fast as that little truck would go.
Ooh. When CERN closed, people started to have weird feelings. Are we tripping? Or maybe CERN really was doing something to us. Deja vu, dreaming more. Oh yeah, Mandela effect. I remember when this shit first went viral and I was like, yeah, I do remember things being a little different. But I want people to understand, this could be the Mandela effect or it could be a marketing strategy. The Mandela effect is a phenomenon where a large group of people share the same false memories about certain events, facts, details, despite clear evidence showing otherwise. People believe Nelson Mandela died in prison in 1980s, but he was released from prison in 1990. He became president of South Africa, but he died again in 2013. Some weird shit, right? Or maybe it's just a glitch in the Matrix. I have a question for you. You ever get up and go into another room and forgot why you even went into the room? You ever have deja vu? You ever been sitting there thinking about calling someone and out of nowhere that person called you? Well, this is all connected to Nelson Mandela effect or our reality. Yes, timelines are always shifting. Hollywood tried to tell you this. That's why they have Universal Studios. This life we live is just a studio. And they also have motion pictures. This reality we live in is nothing but a picture. Our emotions make this picture move. All this shit take place in the back of our head. You know, when you go to the movies, you sit down and you watch the movie in front of you, but the projector is taking place behind you. Well, that's how our shit work. So this could be true. He could be stepping into different timelines. Let me break this down really simple. I grew up in the 90s and we played with a game called Viewmaster. We would take these paper discs, put it inside of the game. We would put it to our face, click the orange thing on the side, and it would give us different pictures. The more you click, more images or realities you get to see. But the tricky part is this. It never really moves. It's just images in motion. The people that control this world understand how our reality work, and they found out a way to implant ideas in our mind. It's called group think, collective consciousness. If they can make 55% of the population believe something, the whole population will have to believe it. It's all about balance.
This is the scariest data center theory ever.
Basically, this dude is theorizing that due to the increase in production of data centers, we might be losing power next year. This theory talks about some underground cities being powered and how data centers are part of it, allegedly.
But here's what we really should be asking. Why do we suddenly need so many data centers? Why do they require so much electricity?
Look, whether or not the $1 trillion underground network is real, the reality happening just here on the surface is just as terrifying. And your intuition might not be so far from the truth. However, your first question was,
why do we suddenly need so many data centers?
Why so many? Because we transition from storing data to generating thought.
Why do they require so much electricity?
Because AI requires 10 times the power of standard cloud compute.
Why do they need millions of gallons of clean drinking water?
Because the legacy tech industry is lazy. Use evaporative cooling tower, which literally boils our drinking water down straight into the atmosphere. It's just an extractive, unsustainable loop.
And why are so many being built in strategically important locations?
Because hyperscale developers are scouting for the last remaining pockets of grid headroom and cheap water, often draining the drinking water of local municipalities before they even realize what they signed.
You're not gonna like the answer. It involves those $1 trillion underground city projects.
Whether or not that is true, the part that they aren't really telling you actually is that it doesn't have to be that way. I've been working with a multi-model AI consensus, engineer something called Think 3.0 Green Code Protocol. The Green Code explained, quintessentially mathematically proven to retrofit these facilities, these 5,400 plus facilities that have been around since 1987. Here's some nerdy talk for you, but using some single-phase dielectric immersion, which basically means that we can drop their water consumption to absolute zero. And instead of venting all that heat into the sky or into the ocean, what if we just recycled 100% of that into municipal district heating, agricultural crop drying, or just desalination, which will provide more water? You don't have to stop human progress, okay? But we have to bound it. Look, if you want to see the actual math or the blueprints and what have you, well, even the municipal zoning laws that I've drafted just to protect our cities, I published the entire open source protocol in the vault on the website. Look, the blueprint is ready. The cities just have to enforce it. Don't forget to stay awesome, stay positive, stay sleep. Keeping that bluebird. And as usual, don't forget to stay awesome, stay positive, stay beautiful, and stay you. I love you truly. I do. Have a great day.
Silksy.pages.dev.
3 a.m. is real. 3 a.m. is a documented medical phenomenon, and it's when night shift nurses see things. One more fun piece of context before we get into the actual episode. Florence Nightingale, the woman who basically invented modern professional nursing in the 1850s, was famous for one specific image, walking the wards at night with a lamp. Soldiers in the Crimean War called her the lady with the lamp. She would do rounds alone by lamplight when the rest of the hospital was asleep. The image stuck and is practically the symbol of the entire profession. What we don't always remember is that Nightingale spent the rest of her life, after the war, convinced that her hospital had been visited by something supernatural. She wrote letters about it. She believed in spiritual presences in wards. She believed dying soldiers were attended by things they could not see. The founder of modern nursing was a paranormal witness.
One of the things that always stands out to me when looking at old photos from the 1800s and early 1900s is how many major cities look strangely empty, completely devoid of life. Like take this 1861 panorama of St. Petersburg, Russia. Completely empty, muddy streets. This is not an issue of long exposure. You see no motion blurs. You see no parked idle carriages. No street vendors. Nothing. The city looks abandoned, like it was staged, ready to be taken over. And this is a massive city. At the time of this photo, St. Petersburg had a population of over 500,000. With all this massive streets, wide boulevards, grand architecture, huge public spaces, and it's all completely empty. And of course, the whited out skies in mostly all of these old photos. Our history is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. Question everything, friends.
What you're seeing right here is Semitic, or at least non-Egyptian slaves making straw bricks. It's right there. For centuries, Bible critics would point to the Exodus story. For literally centuries, they would be like, this never happened. It's a national sort of, Semitic myth for national pride. Somebody made this up. And actually kind of the narrative was the Israelites literally were never in Egypt. Bro, this is so fascinating. Okay. So then a few years ago, they dig this up. They find a burial place in Egypt of Egyptian nobles. What you're seeing right here is on the wall of a noble. I'm trying to get this right. The guy's name was Rekhmire. And this guy, this is on the side of his burial place. He was the second in charge for two pharaohs, a guy named Thutmose III. By dating and just sort of context clues, almost everybody thinks that's the pharaoh who wanted Moses dead. So when there's a whole story about kill all the Egyptian boys and Moses gets thrown in the Nile, he's the dude that issues the command, slaughter the boys. Rekhmire was also the second in command for a guy named Amenhotep II that almost everybody thinks, he's never named in the book of Exodus, but people think, dude, that's the guy that was the pharaoh. Okay. So this guy Rekhmire, this is the side of his burial tomb, and he's the one, the second in command of both these guys. Now, bro, what you're seeing right here, this is crazy. So for centuries, they're saying, oh, this is all a myth. They were never in Egypt. Right in the middle there, look at these people bending over, this guy that's bent over, and he's got a brick wall in front of him and underneath him. You look right underneath it, and there's these people bending over on these hay little heaps. So they discover this. It is literally depicting non-Egyptian, probably Semitic slaves making straw brick. It's right there. Now, the mural, when they dated it in his tomb, the dates that they give are 1479 to 1425 BC. That is right in the middle is the estimated early date of the Exodus. Yeah. Now, to this day, if you go to the British Museum, they have one spot that's an Egyptian sort of display thing that is from this period. And they don't even comment on it, from what I understand, about it being tied to the biblical narrative. They're just like, here's a brick that was made by slaves in this era. And if you look real close, right in the middle of the dadgum brick is straw. Yeah. Now, if you are a Bible reader that has read Exodus 3, 4, 5, the whole story is about them. They're slaves. They're making bricks with straw. Whenever Moses asked for them to be set free, Pharaoh's like, you got to make bricks without straw. And all of this stuff is confirming exactly what you got in the middle of your Bible. So I want to say the same thing over and over again. This is not a myth. It's not a story. It's an event. The Bible really happened. The real Jesus died on a real cross for the real you.
Amen. Thought they were training dolphins to collect trash, but they accidentally taught one how to run a mafia-style criminal enterprise. Trainers at the Institute for Marine Mammal Studies had dolphins keep their pool clean by giving them fish every time they brought litter to them. But a genius dolphin named Kelly noticed a flaw. She was paid per piece of trash, not by the size. So she would hide large pieces of trash under a rock and tear off smaller pieces when she wanted a snack. But then she really escalated things. After a seagull landed in her pool, she brought it to her trainers, was rewarded with a massive pile of fish, and realized birds were a high-yield investment. So she started using her own fish as bait to lure more birds in and catch them for a bigger payday. But the craziest part is that she didn't keep it a secret. Kelly taught her calves the hustle. They taught the rest of the pod, and seagull baiting became a practice among every dolphin in the facility. Trainers wanted a cleaner pool, but Kelly wanted an empire.
Oh yeah, they're pushing that baby.
Basically, they taught them how to fish.
For a reason. They're running low on supplies. We already know what they was talking about in the Epstein files, and now they're just saying the quiet thing out loud. We need some babies. And it's not for what you think. It's not what you think. They said that this has been going on since 2006, but we know it's been before that. Yeah. Let's go to an interesting clip.
Time in history, we have now some evidence, some clues that we can actually live forever. Okay. I'm going to show you two examples. The first one is a Japanese researcher named Yamanaka. What he did in 2006 was he took a virus and he loaded it with 4 transcription factors, and he put it on an adult skin cell and was able to turn that skin cell all the way back to a stem cell state. If you can do that with one cell, then theoretically you can do that with every cell in your body to turn it back to an earlier state. So the second one is 20 years ago, took 2 mice and stitched them together like Siamese twins, so they would have one circulatory blood system. one old mouse and one young mouse. And the old mouse was biologically getting younger, and the young mouse is biologically getting older. Second experiment, they did not stitch them together, but they just did a plasma transfer. They just swapped the blood. And the same thing was happening. That means now you can rejuvenate an old mouse purely by function of the proteins coming from the blood of the young mouse. If you can rejuvenate an old mouse just by young blood, I'm going to take the earliest stem cells that you possibly find without any ethical issues and take the secretome or proteins coming off of it and putting on the oldest cells. And what we're hoping to do is to drive back our biological clock and make us younger.
You picking up what they putting down? Don't have no kids.
No.
Don't feed their need. Starve their asses.
Have kids, but protect them at all costs. That's it.
Okay.
Don't be scared.
Replace mouse with human beings. Okay? Without any ethical issues. Why do you think they're no longer looking to abort fetuses? And it don't matter.
Yeah, I know.
If it's a viable
I know.
fetus or not. They want you to push that motherfucker to full term.
I know.
They want the baby in the placenta. They want it all.
I know.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah,
sister.
this is not something that's in a science fiction movie. This is not something that's in a horror film. This is something that's happening now live currently, 4K. That's something that's been going on actually. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that right there for you. Don't have no kids.
Ah,
Okay. Okay.
have a bunch of
Demons
kids.
are fallen angels. They're not. Fallen angels are just, they're regular angels. Demons, on the other hand, are the disembodied spirits of formerly living Nephilim or angel-human hybrids. The Book of Enoch tells you that when an angel mates with a woman in flesh, it was never meant to take place in the first place. So since God never intended for them to exist in the first place, when you kill the body of one of those things, the spirit goes out and becomes a wandering evil spirit that we call demons. I believe that's in 1 Enoch chapter 15, if I remember the address right. It tells you point blank that's what demons are. So they have nowhere to go. And since they used to have a body, they desire to have a body again. So that's why they possess bodies. That's why a little girl, 8-year-old girl become possessed by a demon and throw like 3, 6 foot, 200 pound men off of her like it's nothing. Well, she might have the spirit inside of her of a 18-foot giant.
Scientists have discovered a giant hole at the bottom of the ocean, and it's not empty. Blue holes are named for the dark blue waters of their depths, which contrast with the shallows around them. They're ancient relics from previous ice ages, starting out as sinkholes. When these ice ages ended and the sea levels rose, this created blue holes in what is now the sea floor. Recently, scientists were exploring the uncharted deep waters of the Caribbean. They were sending sound waves down and calculating depth based on how long they took to return, and they found something unusual on the seafloor, 450 meters down. A crater 300 meters wide and dropping to 550 meters below sea level. Usually there's very little life deep inside a blue hole, as the dissolved oxygen levels drop to 0. But the scientists dropped a camera inside this one and found various fish, sponges, and a type of urchin. Pretty unusual.
Everything you're about to see.
More ocean in the ocean.
Evil little town, and you gotta watch to the end to completely understand. Help me save the kids.
All right, guys, we got Diddy's Pizza. That is a Mason A. And the signs on each side of the door are real reminiscent of the black and white checkerboard, aren't they? This is clue 1. Stay. Street from this cool place. I don't know. There's usually someone in a chair always out there. But yeah, I don't know what that place is. But it seems pretty cool too, huh? And then we're right across the street from... Also, look at this. You can go right under. And we got the old abandoned hotel. The clock in the middle. It's a citywide spell, guys. And it's got this really cool house. Big red star. Beautiful, huh? Real beautiful. Classic. I'm here at the St. John's Public Library. I'm gonna try to look at that. And what I put here at the end of the video, right off the FBI's page. Blue monarch butterfly, perfectly manicured lawn. Tell me this isn't strategic. It's like up on the hill. Children crossing for sure.
Wow.
Here's the best part. There's a bunker.
What?
Sex trafficking symbolism. You'll see how they're using this tech. You'll see if you watch my other pages. Look, it's literally an invasion. You see the MK handler tag? That's what that right there is. You see that? The turtle? That's our memory, our wisdom. Here's the blue monarch butterfly, which is also an M with the K. You see? Here's the broadcast. What's here? You see this, guys? Look. You see the shapeshifter?
Man, look at this.
Look at all this, guys. This literally says slay. Slay. And there's the little X with the smiley. This is them manipulating our chakras. And we're right here in the church parking lot. You thought this was just a local club board? Look closer. Every symbol is a code. If you want me to come to your town, because obviously we can't have shit like that. And check stuff out. Subscribe to this page, support the cause, and I'll see what I can do.
My man. Hey, somebody get this gentleman whatever he needs, including the unregistered, pew pew.
Something is going on in Southern California. It began around May 3rd, and over the course of several days, 3 different witnesses have come forward with peculiar videos, what appears to be unidentified lights and sounds in the sky being recorded from Pomona to Los Angeles, and nobody has any explanation for what they captured. Some are writing it off as simply fireworks, but there's no cause for these fireworks in the middle of the night. So what is it? What's going on? It almost has the feel of Battle of Los Angeles. Take a look at these next 3 videos, comment below, tell us what you think.
Padre Santo, Señor Ben.
Want to learn the biological effects of cannibalism? Of course you do. Especially today because we are answering a really cool question. What kind of genetic modification would a mammal require to be immune to prion diseases? Well, what if I told you that there is in fact a genetic mutation that can protect people who have it from prion diseases? And how we found this was very interesting. As when Kuru disease was discovered, it was only discovered in one tribe within Papua New Guinea, that being the tribe called the Foray people. As the Foray people conducted ritualistic cannibalism, and that led to Kuru disease being spread throughout the tribe. But the story doesn't end there, as not only was Kuru disease discovered at this point, but it was also discovered that at some point in evolution, the Foray people, because of Kuru disease, developed a genetic mutation. A genetic mutation that specifically impacts the PRNP gene. The PRNP gene being the gene that synthesizes the healthy cellular prion protein. That is, before it sporadically misfolds into a disease-causing prion, things like Kuru prions or Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease prions. And how this mutation works to block prion diseases is really interesting. Basically, we have the PRNP gene within this DNA strand, and that gene holds this mutation. So whenever this DNA template with the mutation on it gets transcribed into an RNA strand, which is copied from the original DNA template, so it has the mutation, that mutated RNA strand then gets turned into chains of amino acids. Now, there are a lot of amino acids, 20 to be specific, and those amino acids end up creating proteins. In this case, folding into cellular prion proteins. So whenever we get to this stage of building the cellular prion protein, the DNA mutation basically swapped out one specific amino acid in a specific location within the chain for another amino acid. And we know exactly which amino acid was changed out, as this mutation has it all in the name, with it being called G127V. Meaning, if this was the 127th amino acid within the entire chain, this specific amino acid would be changed from a glycine amino acid to a valine amino acid. And this one amino acid change basically makes it to where misfolded prions within the body cannot connect to other proteins and misfold them, basically blocking Kuru disease from having any effect on your proteins.
Are they doing remote viewing in a professional capacity at NASA?
No,
or?
Well, I don't want to tell on anybody, but some of this is actually public, but nobody's noticed. One of the people at NASA has actually written a CIA training manual for remote viewing.
This is public?
Yeah. And that person did it before they came to NASA.
You know, they also have a patent, I believe in 2003, on a barrel-shaped asymmetric capacitor. And they say we're talking about Thomas Townsend Brown.
Oh, yeah. That works interesting too. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. There are handfuls of people doing weird things here and there, right?
In the early days of Christianity, there was a group of hardcore believers called the Stylites, and they proved their faith by living on top of pillars, sometimes for years at a time. They had a little bucket with a rope to bring up their food and send down their business. The most renowned was Simeon the Stylite, who lived on top of a pillar for 36 years near Aleppo, Syria, an act of faith which helped earn him sainthood. Inspired by Simeon the Stylite, a monk named Wulflake built himself his own pillar to stand on top, and he lived there day in, day out without any shoes. Wulflake's pillar was outside of Trier in modern-day Germany. He was up there to preach, to try to convince people to stop worshipping Roman gods and to become Christian. The thing was, it was considerably colder in Northern Europe than it was in Syria. He's shivering up there all winter, his beard is covered with all sorts of frozen snot, his feet keep freezing, and his toenails repeatedly fall off. So eventually the bishops watching all of this from the ground realize that what he's doing is going to be bad PR for the church. And they're like, Wulflake, you got to come down from up there, you're getting too cold. And he's like, nah, my faith is too strong, you can't make me come down. So eventually they talk up to him and they're like, hey, Wulflake, you got to come down. If there's an official church meeting, everybody's got to be there. Wulflake, being the obedient church servant, reluctantly comes down the ladder, goes to this sham meeting. Of course, while he was there, the bishops had organized to have the pillar taken down. Wulflake, the Stylite, remained grounded for the rest of his days, but he did become a saint.
So the elites do magic and you don't. So let's start out with the basics of what magic actually is. Let's start with 3 quotes, and then we'll go from there. The first coming from Dion Fortune, the founder of modern esoteric psychology, said, "The mind is not a passive mirror of reality, but an active participant in its creation." And from there, Max Planck, the founder of quantum theory, said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental, and I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." And last but certainly not least, we have Carl Jung, who said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So at some point, wizards, scientists, and psychologists all agreed on one thing. Me and you are all co-creators and subconsciously creating the reality around us together. The question from there is, how do I control it? And the first answer is, you don't. And the second answer is, you do by making your subconscious, like Carl Jung says,
the underground cave system with missing people in the national parks. They just disappeared in the blink of an eye. Like there's this little boy named Dennis Martin who was playing hide and seek with his brothers and sisters, ran behind a tree, and he was gone.
Wow.
His dad ran like 2 miles into the forest to find him, couldn't find him. It was the biggest search in national park history. They brought out Green Berets to find this. Still, to this day, they've never found a touch of him.
That's crazy.
Right, yeah. And if you line up the cluster map of all these people that go missing, it's right on top of the cave system. And then you think about how big the cave system is. Like Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is massive, and we've only explored like 5% of it or something. So we have no clue what's down there.
Jeez. So what's your theory on who's in the caves?
I think it could be a mix of animals and then interdimensional beings, possibly.
Bigfoot,
fairies, goblins, whatever you want to call them. I definitely believe in that. I think that there are dimensions that we cannot see. And science has proved there's 11 dimensions, and it has to be for quantum physics to work. So I just believe that there's things that we can't see going on down there. And maybe that's where these portals lead to. That's the inner earth beginning. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's something going on down there.
Y'all, this guy set up trail cams on his property and you step in front of them to see if they'd work. He got everything set up. It took a couple photos of him. He went home, reviewed the photos, and that's when he realized something was not right. Just 5 seconds after the previous photo, this showed up in the next photo. What looks like a human figure is standing in the wood line. Now, mind you, these photos were taken within seconds of each other, and this thing just appears. It has a smaller stature, and it's semi-translucent. And it actually looks like it's looking at the trail cam directly. I enhanced the photo the best I could. Now, whatever this thing is, it doesn't look like a human, which makes me wonder if maybe it's some sort of forest spirit. Maybe it's attached to one of these trees, and it's just checking all this out and wondering, what this man is doing in this part of the forest. It definitely doesn't seem malevolent, but what do you guys think? Let me know.